welcome to Science to Go. I'm Miss Robin with the Dalton Library. Today we're doing science called Capture the Castle. It is part of the Summer Reading Club theme, Imagine Your Story. First we will design a castle using sugar cubes, build a catapult to see if we can capture that castle, and then design a shield for a coat of arms. The Middle Ages, or the medieval period, began in the late 500s with the fall of the Roman Empire and lasted until the late 1500s when the Renaissance period began, with the development of the printing press and the rise of Leonardo da Vinci. It is also known as the Dark Ages because even though many famous people, events, art, and architecture occurred. This is because there wasn't a central government to keep an accurate record of what was happening during this period. The Middle Ages are known for their castles, peasants, feudalism, which ended at the end of the Middle Ages, crusades, large cathedrals, Joan of Arc, Charlemagne, the Magna Carta, the 100-Year War, King John, King Richard III, the Knights Templar, and the bubonic plague, which killed over 20 million people in Europe. Our first activity will be a sugar cube castle. Castles are private fortified structures that were usually inhabited by nobility and included a military presence. They became popular in the 9th and 10th centuries when the European empires fell and the land was divided up. Nobles built castles to control their area and be a base for offensive and defensive attacks. Early castles were usually made of timber and then later from stone. Their forms and features have changed over the years due to why they were built, such as for military protection or a symbol of power. The development of gunpowder and artillery meant castles could easily be destroyed, so building them slowed down in the 15th century and stopped completely by the 16th. Construction of castles began again during the 18th century more as a symbol of wealth and power than as a military fortress. First thing you're going to want to do is take a piece of paper and start building the design of your castle. Included in your packet are various designs of the castles that were around during the medieval periods. You can choose one of these or you can design your own. It is all up to you. You have a box of sugar cubes that came with your kit. What you will do with these is you will make your castle. Stack them side by side. We will discuss how to attach them in a moment, or you can just stack them. Once you have placed your first row of sugar cubes, you're going to start your second, of course. When you place the first large one, place it where there is a seam from the two below. If you need a half piece to fill in, you may do so. In order to have a half piece, have an adult take a whole piece of sugar cube and cut it with a sharp knife. They will not split evenly, but it'll be close enough that that's what you need. Continue building your castle. There are different ways that you can attach your sugar cubes together. The first way uses glue. What you will do is dab a piece of glue onto whatever side of the sugar cube you are using and then attach them together. Sometimes it's easier to put just a little bit on each side and then this, and attach them. You will want to hold them together for a few seconds to make sure they adhere. And keep doing that as you build. And you will end up with something eventually like this. If you want a square castle, you can also do a round castle if you would like. As you are building your castle with your cubes, it does take time for the glue to dry, so you may just want to do 1 or 2 layers, let it sit for half an hour to an hour, go back and do a few more layers until you have finished building your castle. As you can see, a castle that is attached with glue is very sturdy and is hard to break apart. Another way to put your castle together is to use water. You will take your sugar cube, dab your finger or a paintbrush, and gently put the water on one side of the cube and then attach the other. Again, like the glue, it will take a few minutes for it to adhere, and it also takes some time, a little bit longer than the glue. Continue doing this until you have what you want. Eventually, you'll get your sugar cubes to stick together. This is a much slower process than glue, but unlike glue, these will easily break apart if you don't like how something works or you want to take it apart later. Have fun building your castles. They can be any way you would like, although I do suggest as you were building them, either do it on a paper plate or a piece of cardboard so that it's easier to move in the future. How it works. Castles are often made of stone, clay, soils, and trees. Mortar was used to hold the bricks together, which was made from lime, soil, and water. There are many parts to a castle. Some will have all of them, some will have these, some will have different parts, just depending on who built it. The outer curtain, which is typical, was usually had the towers and was either round or square. The main tower was often called a keep and was the strongest part of the castle because that is where the noble family lived. The gatehouse controlled access to the castle and may have included a drawbridge if the castle had a moat. Other buildings included walls, and garrisons to house soldiers, kitchens, stables, churches, and workshops. Building a castle was very expensive and also took a lot of time. Skilled workers spent many years building castles. Most of us think castles of just being in Europe. However, castles have been built all over the world, including Japan, China, India, and even in North America, even though the North American ones are not considered medieval. And each country had a unique style to their castles. Although people had castles, they were under attack once in a while. One of the things that opposing armies would use is a catapult. Catapults were developed by the Greeks in 399 BC while trying to extend the range of the crossbow. They became popular in the Middle Ages when they were used during sieges to damage the castle wall or send a variety of projectiles into the castle. A few examples of projectiles are stones, burning tar, burning sand, darts, sharp wooden poles, dead animals, and diseased bodies. Anything to get the castle opened up. Next, we are going to build our own catapult. In your kit, you will find one large craft stick, another one that has a lid glued on it, and 7 small craft sticks. First thing you'll do is stack your 7 small craft sticks on top of each other and then rubber banded on each end like I have here. Next, take your plain craft stick, stack the lid one on top of it. Take one of your rubber bands, and then you're going to rubber band these together and just keep twisting the rubber band over until it is tight. So about 5 or 6 times, and it will look like that. Next, you're going to take your stack of craft sticks and place it between the 2 large craft sticks. So it is in the middle. Take one of the 2 remaining rubber bands, place it over on an angle so it looks crosswise, and then you're going to twist over all the pieces. You may want an adult to help you do this. Until you have it in place. You will do the same thing, going the opposite direction with the remaining rubber band. So it looks like a cross over that. That is your catapult. This middle piece is considered the fulcrum, and you can slide it up and down with the rubber bands together depending on where you want that. What you do is then pull this top piece back, let go, and whatever you have in here will go flying. I suggest you use a small pom-pom or a cotton ball or something soft in here. Make sure you do not aim it at people or animals or anything that could break easily. And that is your catapult that you can launch. As the craft stick is pulled back, stored energy is created. When released, the stored energy is transferred into motion, and the energy causes the pom-pom or cotton ball to fly forward. The farther back the craft stick is pulled, the farther and higher the pom-pom will fly. The fulcrum allows the angle of the catapult to change. By moving it forward to the point, the projectile-launched object will fly higher with a shorter distance. The projectile will fly farther and at a lower height when the fulcrum is moved away. So in this example, these are our fulcrum. So if you loosen your rubber band, you can move it up a little bit. So make sure it's not too tight. So if you pull it back towards the opening, the projectile is going to go farther, but not as high. You move it down towards the bottom where you have it rubber banded together, it's going to fly higher, but not as far. So the goal is to find the sweet spot of height and distance that will hit whatever you're aiming or your target. Our final activity is to create a shield. The coat of arms is used to identify families in most tournaments, but it was also used in battles to identify alliances, lineages, and society status. There are several pieces to a coat of arms, such as the crest, helm, wreath, supporters, motto, and shield. The shield is the focal point of the coat of arms and is often carried by knights into battle. I ask you to read through the instructions on the handout before you begin your shield project. You have in there your kit, your shield pattern. There is a large one that you can use. I also have included a small one. Use this to determine what you want your shield to look like and draw it out before you complete it on the big one. You can make copies of this if you would like. You can also trace it and cut it out on colored paper. You can use crayons and markers to decorate the paper one if you want. The shield is yours, however you would like to design it. The inside of this is known as the field, so then determine what color you would like to make it. On the information sheet that you are in your handout, it tells you what the different colors mean. There are also what's called an ordinary on the shape. It is usually made from straight lines and either run side to side or up and down on the shield. They also may run diagonal, as we have examples down here. And when you do your ordinaries, they do not have to be straight lines. Here are some examples. I used some decorative scissors to make different borders on the ordinaries. They can be different thicknesses. You can have them really thin. You can have them thicker. The usual rule of thumb for that is about 1/10 the width of the shield. So in this example, our fattest ordinary would be about 1 inch, or like this. Once you have designed the color and placed your ordinaries, it is time to decide what emblem you would like on your shield. Emblems are pictures of objects and animals, real or mythical, and they are usually a simple design due to that they have to be easily reproduced and also spotted on the shield. There may be one or more charges on the shield. The size of the charge should be appropriate for the number and the location. So if you have one charge, it should be really big. If you get 2 or 3, make them a little bit smaller. 4 is usually about the example. Once you are finished, everything should fill most of the shield. My example that I made here is I made my background blue, and I put an ordinary going down and an ordinary going across. And then what I chose for my charges, I chose a fleur-de-lis. The fleur-de-lis was chosen because is the emblem of Boy Scouts, and my son and husband are Boy Scouts. I also chose books because, of course, I'm a librarian, and that's my favorite thing. We also have a cat and a dog at home, so I decided that I would include them. So this represents my whole family on here. You may choose whatever you want, including things that are not included, and I've given you some examples of charges. But, you can also add swords, ships, keys, whatever represents you. This is your shield for your family. And if you want one for the family, if you want one for each individual, that is up to you, and you are more than welcome to try that. Thank you for joining us to Science to Go. If you wish to learn more about the Middle Ages and castles, there's a list of books on the information sheet. Additional activities are also listed too. Thank you and have a great day.